30 years ago, the Legg family took over this farm in West Dorset. Almost immediately, they discovered that one end of this field was difficult to plough, and they put it down to the stony soil. But then, earlier this year, Roman finds started to crop up all over the field. Roof tile, pottery, Roman coins, brooches. What's going on? The Leggs are itching to know. Is there a Roman building here that could account for their broken ploughs? Time Team's got just 3 days to find out and let them know. Well, rain's forecast for the next 3 days, but at the moment it's spectacularly nice, isn't it?
It's beautiful, isn't it?
When did you first realise that there might be something under there?
Well, I've ploughed this field about 25 times in the last 30 years. And as a rule, we would break 2 or 3 of these shear bolts every time we plough it.
So that's what it ought to look like.
That's the new one, and that's a broken one.
But it could just be boulders or something.
We do get a lot of big sandstone boulders.
But then these finds started to come up.
Yes, that's right. So metal detectors, they found a number of Roman coins and brooches which were confirmed by Dorset County Museum and Bournemouth University.
And then this year a shadow appeared in the field?
Yes, when I was ploughing it this spring, because the soil was damp, the soil was dark.
Yeah.
And there was a square shape of lighter, chalky colour.
About how big?
About 4 times the size of that reservoir.
4 times this big? Well, it's going to be some structure, isn't it, Guy?
If there's a building that size on the top of the hill, it will be very, very exciting. I've seen the coins, which are great.
Yeah.
There are lots of them. They're Roman, there's no doubt about that. We've got some structural debris here, which I've started looking through. Some of that's not Roman, so I'm not quite sure yet, but there's a real enigma up here.
What could it be?
I think, and it's only a theory, the most likely thing it will have been is a Roman temple. Right up here, it's not an ideal place for a villa or a farm. There are lots of temples built on hilltop locations, particularly in the late Roman period, and that's the same period as the coins.
How do we find out what it is?
Well, I think we've got to do some geophysics over the area where the farm machinery was bent to see if there's any structures buried there. But we've also got the chance here to do some field walking, because although there's a crop on the field of maize, the plants are far enough apart to give us a strip to walk along to pick up any finds.
What about that crop, Roger? John's already been blundering his way through it.
Well, I've got lots of years to grow crops on this field. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Geofiz have been at it since dawn. We're also metal detecting and walking the field. There's enough space between the maize plants to look for more Roman pot or tile just lying on the surface. If finds are clustering, we can investigate the hotspots. One of our legion of Roman experts has been looking at the building material that's already been found. From the finds that we've got, can you tell what sort of Roman building it is?
Well, not from this, because none of this is convincingly Roman.
You're kidding?
No, I'm not. I can see why people have thought it at first glance. Some of you think, oh yes, that looks like it's a piece of Roman imbrex, but it's actually very hard and got an uncharacteristically smooth surface. Same with this, it looks like a piece of tegula, the flange roof tile, but it's actually far too thin, and it's been moulded, and Roman brick and tile is handmade.
So we've got metal finds, like the coins.
Yeah, we've got the coins, brooches
and the
stuff.
brooches. But there was never a Roman building here.
Oh, well, that's not necessarily the case, because we could have a building in timber. There's certainly Roman activity up here, but from this there is nothing to indicate a substantial stone or tiled roofed structure. Sorry.
This is going to be one of those digs. And the news gets worse. The field walkers' finds have been washed and mapped, and there's nothing Roman. And Geofiz are looking even glummer than usual.
So what have you got on the geophysics, John?
It's a bit disappointing, really.
What about this blob here?
Well, that looks to be a large piece of iron.
Oh, so it could be modern then, right.
But there's no clear archaeological targets at the moment.
From the geophysics, right.
Lordy Lord. Our only remaining lead back to the Romans is the coins and brooches. But they at least are looking more promising. The metal detectorists even found 3 more coins this morning.
OK, what have you got then, Henry?
This is basically a map plotting where all the previous metal detecting finds have been in this field. And basically we have the red dots showing the coins, we've got the brooches, the yellow triangles, and the ring at that end, and it does show a cluster sort of where we stood roughly.
So it sounds if, in the absence of a geophys target, we probably ought to have a look at that concentrated area in the middle there,
Yeah, I
shouldn't
think so, yeah.
Which is presumably more or less where we are here, this side of the hedge.
Mick seems very relaxed given all this bad news, and everyone's putting on a brave face.
I would have thought.
But the truth is, we're sticking in a trench on a broad scatter of metal detectorist finds and outside the Geofiz survey area. I wonder if our spectators have got any idea of how close to disaster we are.
So what we do then is we'll strip a bit of an area rather than just going straight down.
That's right.
Strip an area and then try it.
In case there's still stuff in the topsoil.
We'll do that.
Is there a bit of a figure there?
Well, that could be, couldn't it?
Our Roman double act, Guy and Richard, have been looking at what kind of Roman coins have been found to see if the dates and values give us any clues as to why they were here. Do we reckon we know what we've got now?
Yep, quite a few coins.
Yes, I know we've got coins. Even I know we've got coins. What kind of date?
Early 2nd, speeding up in the 3rd, quite a lot of 4th century stuff.
Are they valuable?
In ancient terms, no.
So what does that imply?
You'd either use them for everyday purchase on market stalls or fairgrounds or something like that and not worry if you lost them, or if you're giving them to a shrine or something, the tendency is always to give the worst stuff, the copies, the forgeries, the foreign coins.
What about the other metal finds?
Well, there's some brooches, some of which may be as early as the 1st century, and one that goes up to the middle of the 2nd century, but look that it's broken. Now, it's quite common in a religious context to give away broken brooches. Just as you might give away worn-out rubbish coinage, you give away scrap metal rather than good stuff.
So lots of finds but no structure?
Yeah, we've got a real mystery. The coins are great, the brooches are great. It's a very, very strange place.
What do you think it might be?
Well, you could have coins and no living both on a fairground or a temple.
A fairground?
Yeah, market.
If the coins were here because of a fair or market, this could turn out to be the shortest and least interesting time team ever. Something so ephemeral would be unlikely to leave any other archaeological traces. Everything now seems to hang on the only trench we've opened.
Look, where's the boy Ashton?
Where is he? Yeah, but that's the trouble.
Should we go and get him?
Might as well call in the wrinkled professor while we're at it.
I'm worried when you have a stern face.
We got what looks like our natural look coming on there. But look, there's something looks coming round here. And we appear to have an edge. What I was requesting is to take out a bit of this.
Yeah, take out a bit more.
And see whether or not we can. I mean, if this is a ditch or something like this coming round,
you
put a
need
slot.
to see that natural the other side.
That's what it's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, let's do that.
What Phil thinks he's got is a man-made ditch cut into the natural geology. He's found one edge, and to confirm it, he needs to find the other one.
Oh,
One.
that's the other side of it then.
Nice one.
That is, I like the look of that.
Yeah.
It's curving round, it's curving round. All right, we'll have a bit more off, Phil. Just pick it up here. Looking better, isn't it?
He's pleased about that.
Oh, I like the look of that.
Hallelujah, there is some archaeology here. We now have two edges to our ditch.
You're thinking flints and pottery, aren't you?
But this doesn't look Roman.
Big too.
They didn't build in curves, but the people who came before them did, which is great for Phil because he loves the prehistoric.
That's got to be good, Mick. Got to be good.
Right.
You see, what we're interested in is you've got the natural there, natural bedrock there, this stuff, and you see there's an edge. Comes across there, and it's coming across there as well. So there's summit going round there, that way.
The question now is, what is it? It's a mystery that's going to keep us busy for a while, and really it's a bit of a fluke that we found it at all. But the quest for Roman has not been derailed by Phil's possible prehistoric discovery. Geofiz and the field walkers have now moved on to the next field in search for an explanation of the Roman coins. Farmer Roger's mysterious shadowy square might yet be evidence of something Roman. The trick is to get him to remember where it was. Presumably you didn't actually mark the position of this shadow thing.
Well, it was roughly in this sort of area.
Roughly.
Approximately.
So how are we going to work out where to dig?
Well, if you look at the maize plants,
Yeah.
they are sort of stunted in this area, and it is stonier on the ground.
So is that a different theory, or does that relate to the shadow?
No, that relates to the shadow, I think.
And was it around here? God, this is like extracting teeth, isn't it? Was it round here that the bolt shed on the plough?
Yes, here and all along the ridgeline.
Ah, we're getting somewhere now. Does your Geofiz indicate anything which might have sheared his bolts? I can hear you saying no before you've even said it.
Look, with the eye of faith, you might just see something in there.
Yeah.
If I didn't know it coincided with Roger's sort of area, I wouldn't have bothered with it.
Where is it?
Well, we're stood on it now.
So do you reckon it's worth putting a trench in here?
Well, we've got nothing to lose. I mean, if this is where the plough was hitting solid material, OK, we've not got anything special on the geophysics. We still ought to look at it.
Well, this is not the most scientifically placed trench we've ever had, but we'll have a go, John. We'll have a go.
Why not?
So another trench goes in without very much precision.
It is a rather obvious ditch, isn't it?
Yeah.
Running right the way down.
But that couldn't matter less to Phil, who's now revealed a very nice curving feature which is producing artefacts.
Oh, you mean you got Roman stuff?
Look, we've got church.
Yeah.
That's the local equivalent of the flint, the actual green sand
lovely.
church.
See the bulb there.
That's right. And we've got flint itself, which really does begin to make it look as though it is prehistoric.
Yep.
But if you really wanted evidence, Bronze Age pot, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, I'd agree with that. That looks like sort of good early Middle Bronze Age. Exactly what you'd expect with a ring ditch like this. Which
that's right. I mean,
we're certainly going to turn into a barrow. Yeah, that's perfect. Excellent.
Not a Roman in sight.
Excuse me while I just pummel you.
If they're right and this is a barrow, then Phil's found part of a ditch that ringed a man-made mound, in the middle of which may be a burial. If that's the case, we'd expect the ditch to extend into the next field, where Geofiz and the field walkers have been looking for Roman stuff. We've done the field walking here, and there's nothing Roman here at all, just a lot of medieval. But what's the Geofiz like? John, have you finished it yet?
Well, it's a clear barrow. There, you've just walked through the boundary and look at that clear arc. We've lost the middle of it because of the modern boundary, but it's there.
Guy, do you think that this barrow has got anything to do with the Roman finds?
Well, I've got to admit, it isn't exactly what I expected when I came up here. But no, the reality is that the Romans did pay a huge amount of attention to prehistoric monuments. After all, they were dotted around in the landscape. They were impressed by them. They made offerings to them. That could explain the Roman stuff up here.
So what do we do about the barrow?
Well, I think we need to learn a little bit more about it, and the obvious thing is to go and look at the centre, because if it's a barrow, it should have a burial in it, so that would confirm that it's a barrow.
But Mick, the middle could be just on that hedge line, couldn't it? That would be a problem.
Well, it would, but I think it's more likely to be into the field, given the plots that we've got.
John and Henry are going to look for the centre of this possible barrow, which appears still to have a Roman dimension to it. Just outside the ditch, Matt has been exploring an area where detectorists have found a cluster of coins, and it's produced something rather interesting. Matt, you see I've got this kind of black circle thing here.
Yeah. I think we should get a metal detector or something over them.
Can we borrow you for a minute?
Sweep over these two.
It's not very promising, is it?
Ah.
Oi!
Well, if you dig it out in chunks from a good distance away and then break out a big lump, we'll get Will to go over the chunks that we take out.
Yeah.
Spread it out a bit. Ah, I see. So it's in there somewhere. So now if we just split it up into 2 or 3, and then Will can go over each bit. So let's spread that out a bit. Ah.
Hey!
There you go.
A find. Oh, beautiful.
Absolutely excellent.
Find. Mark! Come and have a look at this, mate. Got another one.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell anything about that, or does it need to be cleaned up?
Well, it's going to be either late 3rd or 4th century AD.
How do you know that?
The size and thickness alone, that's enough to give a good indication.
So what are all these Roman coins doing in a prehistoric site? The answer is not in Roger's mysterious shadowy square. Bridget has found only geology, so his bolts must have been sheared by plain old rocks. Even though everyone's bottling up their feelings, it's been a tense and frustrating day for the archaeologists. Nerves are beginning to fray, particularly when one of the crew steps into Phil's newly cleaned trench.
David! Sorry, sir.
And on the other side of the hedge, the hunt for the all-important centre of the barrow is also proving frustrating. No one can agree where it is.
I'll paste it and I think that's where the centre is.
K for carrot?
Yeah.
Not a chance. We'll mark the perimeter and we'll see who's right.
Well,
I'm going to extend it from the trench bit. And oh, you do what you want.
I'll tell you where the middle is, Kerry. It is... Hold on. There.
Right, just get the tape.
You can
stand there, you know.
Yeah, so fine.
What length you got?
24.
There. Centre.
Centre.
2 centres then.
2 centres.
We've got 3 different...
You were right mardy this morning about this site, weren't you?
I'm never very good in the morning.
No, but about this site you were going, oh, I don't know if there's anything here.
I think it was quite a sort of high-risk thing, actually. You know, we had a group of finds and a few other finds that might or might not have been, you know, Roman tile and so on. And it seemed a lot to base the work on.
It seems to have paid off this time.
Well, it does, yeah, it does. Look at that. What's going on over there?
Guys, I don't know why you're squabbling. We're going to be digging a trench about 5 by 5. It really doesn't matter whether the centre's on Kerry's point, on Henry's point, or on John's point. What matters is, are we going to find anything in it? We'll know tomorrow. Beginning of day 2, yesterday we found this beautiful Bronze Age ditch, which the archaeologists are saying ought to be part of a burial mound. So yesterday evening we projected where the rest of the curve of the ditch should be so that we could excavate the centre of it and hopefully find the burial. But this being time team, there's a fly in the ointment. Mick, come here, what's the problem?
Well, when I was up in the crane last night, when everybody else had gone home, looking down on the site, it seemed to me that this curve of the ditch that we got here, like that, was actually wider than what we were projected in the field next door.
But we had 3 guys working that out last night, so they all got it wrong.
Well, they may not have got it wrong, it just looked different from above, and it worried me that we might be basing where the ditch was and basing, therefore, where the middle was on, you know, it just didn't look right.
So how are we going to work it out?
Well, I think what we've got to do is we've got to go out that way with the machine, which we do now, and actually find the ditch on the other side.
And only when we've found the outside can we then work out where the middle is.
That's right. We need to get that first to go back and recalculate the middle.
We're tying up an awful lot of our resources on the Bronze Age, aren't we? Are we going to lose sight of the Roman?
No, because if you remember, both Mark and Guy were saying there might be a Roman structure in the middle of the barrow anyway, put in later on. And in any case, we might get more Roman finds, you know, going out across the area of the barrow there. And we're carrying on here. We've got Roman stuff on the barrow over here. If you come over to where Mark is, look.
Phil, can we walk across your lovely ditch?
Yeah, that's right, Tony.
Mark?
Yes.
You got something for us?
Yes, Tony. At the end of yesterday, having cleaned back in this area, scanned by one of the metal detector users, and we got these 3 little shallow scoops, and in the bottom of each one, a Roman coin.
Wow!
It's a 3rd and 4th century AD.
So do you think these were actually put into those holes deliberately?
Yes.
Why on earth would you dig a little hole and put 1 coin in it?
Well, we'll see what Mark said. It sounds like an offering to me.
Yeah, I wonder whether
turf,
you're coming up here. Perhaps you believe these to be your ancestors, real or not.
Yeah.
Maybe you're asking a favour, and in exchange you're
like coins
digging
in a
little
with
scoop,
coins in a barrow, isn't
putting
it?
a coin and perhaps a joint of meat or something.
But do we know whether the Romans actually did this?
Yes, from other sites, religious sites, we sometimes find little sheets of lead with prayers or even curses written on, which are then carefully folded or rolled up and deposited within the temple precinct.
But what about the actual burying of a coin in the side of a barrow?
Well, we've found coins on barrows, but this is the first time, to my knowledge, in the southern and western England where we've actually now started to find these little hollows, so we're really getting some good answers here.
So, not only have we found a new Bronze Age barrow, perhaps 4,000 years old, but also the first evidence of Roman veneration for a prehistoric monument in this part of Britain, 2,000 years later. On the other side of the hedge, the search is now on for more sections of the ring ditch to get a fix on where the centre of the barrow is. That's crucial because it's where you'd find a burial in a classic monument from the Bronze Age. To get to the bottom of its history, Phil's been cutting vertically down through the stuff that filled the original ditch. And he's very pleased with his work.
I think that is an absolutely impeccably cut section. That will be so plumb, people will write books about it.
Phil, of course, has had the advantage of modern metal tools. The people who first dug it would have done so with deer antlers.
That's a very interesting looking section you got there, Phil.
Been a pleasure to dig, Mick, it really has. And even better to clean up. I mean, it does look glorious.
And we've got the full story there, haven't we?
That's right, it is the complete story from the construction of the barrow, literally right through to the present day. See, what they've done is that they've dug this very impressive ditch, and they've had to go through this big seam of green sand chert.
They needed rock drills to get through that, wouldn't they?
Yeah, I know.
That's really hard.
The first thing that's happened is that the top at the sides of the ditch up here have weathered down. That's this material here, and it's covered up the base and the sides. All this top bit, I think that's plough soil, which is actually washed into the top of the ditch.
But this is ploughing the barrow mound itself probably as well.
But if you look here, see what we got there.
Oh, crikey, that's grotty old stuff, isn't it?
It's beautiful. It's a piece of an urn, Bronze Age urn. It's got the finger pinching.
Oh, yeah, these are the finger marks of the potter on the outside.
Right.
So where's this from?
Well, it's actually from the ditch itself. But you see, it's late Bronze Age.
Right.
And I think that what we're looking at here is an urn that's actually been placed in the mound.
Right.
And as the mound has been ploughed away, that fragment of urn has worked its way down into the ditch.
So this is out of the middle of the barrow.
I think this is out of the barrow itself.
Yeah.
Even though the mound itself has been ploughed away, bits of Bronze Age pot are circumstantial evidence of cremation burials in a classic barrow. It's one of the practices that arrived in Britain in the Bronze Age. So what was the difference between the Bronze Age people and the people before them?
Well, primarily we see the kind of monuments they're building in round barrows, and we see very rich graves. We're seeing people accumulating wealth for the first time. So perhaps we can talk of the first time of kings or defined leaders.
How long did the Bronze Age last?
In this part of the world, from about 2500 BC, we get our first evidence of metals and round barrows, up to about 1600, and then there is a very substantial change into the Middle and Late Bronze Age, where we see lots more agricultural settlements, farms, dividing up the land, and pretty much all we can see around us here in Dorset, all the field systems, all the ploughing going on, begins in the later Bronze Age.
So would it be fair to say that the Bronze Age was the beginning of the modern world?
Exactly, beginning of the modern world.
Prehistoric monuments are never just placed by chance on the top of any old high ground. Neighbouring hills and rivers and other local monuments can all shape where they're constructed. Stuart's looking at why this hilltop was favoured with a barrow. He's already found one possible clue. Our site appears to be almost completely encircled by rivers. Why that's significant, and why the Romans took an interest in the site, he's now got to figure out. At the bottom of Phil's beautiful little trench, there are some mysterious features which are exciting Miles.
You see, we've got these almost like post holes and post pipes in each section, look.
They look quite clear as post holes.
We were just debating whether that's the sort of thing you'd expect to get.
You do in quite a few later Bronze Age and indeed early Bronze Age barrows. The ditch acts as a palisade trench. So you've effectively secured the timbers right at the base of the ditch and the soil's then piled up around them.
So they wouldn't have to be very deep?
They wouldn't have to be very deep at all.
They're not very well defined, are they? I mean, they're not perfectly circular.
No, but I mean, that's nice, because I know of a couple of examples in Dorset and in Sussex where they've dug the ditch out, the posts have been inserted. So really what you've got in phase one is a timber circle.
Right.
Sitting in there, and then they whip the posts out, fairly quickly, bury it all and backfill the ditch. But I mean, that's fantastic.
This is intriguing. A palisade around a barrow is definitely not a common feature of Bronze Age monuments. We've revealed most of the ring ditch on the other side of the hedge. Now we can try to work out where the centre is and whatever it might hold. We're also still looking for possible Roman reuse of the barrow. Remember those Romans who brought us here? Mick, there don't seem to be any post holes in there or any of those little depressions that Mark Corney was finding earlier.
No, I mean, there's a lot of features to dig, within the ditch yet, but we don't seem to have those little coins in little holes on this side of the barrow.
So does that mean that this is a Bronze Age story?
Well, what we've got is, an undiscovered Bronze Age barrow that we've come across by accident almost, which is obviously why the Roman stuff is here. And I think we've got the opportunity to have a good look at it now. We should do that.
But I can't see any marks for burials there.
No, but there's a lot of features in the middle that we're going to have to clean up and empty. And after all, there are all sorts of different sorts of barrows, apart from ones with a big central burial. There's lots with peripheral burials around the outside. There's lots that have cremations put in pots. And in fact, that bit of pottery that Phil found is probably one of those cremations that's been broken up.
So even though we haven't found anything yet, it doesn't mean that there isn't something exciting in here somewhere?
No, I'm sure there's going to be, because there's such a range of types of barrow. And we're lucky we've got Miles with us who knows about these things.
So what does our expert think? Does our monument conform to a standard pattern of Bronze Age round barrows? I thought our barrow was going to be circular and that we might find a burial slap bang in the middle of it.
Well, it does appear to be circular. Most round barrows that we see in the UK, you've got a sort of a nice round ditch, and the centre we've got a mound, and somewhere in the centre there's going to be a burial. But the more of these we dig, the more we realise that the mound itself covers sort of a multitude of sins. Sometimes there are burials, sometimes there's the remains of a house structure, sometimes there's the remains of a fire, sometimes the mound itself just contains a whole range of different artefacts, say a sort of tribal material, pottery, flint work, animal bone, is all accumulated in the mound as some kind of tribal marker, some kind of statement. So not all of them have a burial smack in the centre.
But by and large, are they a round shape?
Usually, I mean, when you see them in the landscape, what you see is sort of like one of these sort of comedy kneecaps sitting up there. That's the mound, but you never know what's actually inside there. It could be anything. Sometimes it's a body, but sometimes not.
In our case, not. We've now excavated what we think's the centre, and there's no evidence of a burial. But from the ditch, Bridget has come up with a few fragments of bone.
Just found some little bits of bone here. It's incredibly poor and degraded.
Isn't
and what
it?
worries me is if we've got a burial,
Yeah.
I don't know if we're actually going to find the body itself.
That's all there is, yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there's charcoal in this soil as well.
There is, yeah.
And there may be another cremation or something that's been placed in the top of the ditch.
Exactly. You can't see anything in the soil. There's no stains associated with burials or...
Yeah.
But we'll keep digging.
After later examination, none of the bone could be positively identified as human, so still no definite evidence of a burial here. Any evidence may have been scraped away with the mound itself, unless we've missed something in the middle. And there still seems to be some doubt about where that actually is. Indeed, Henry was so perplexed that he decided to plot the exact shape of our feature using his extremely expensive global positioning system, which is accurate to a few centimetres. And he's made an extraordinary discovery.
If you have a look at the plan, this is the ditch of our...
crikey.
Whatever we have here. Now, you see it's not a circle. You can
Presumably because it's not circular, it's difficult to find a centre.
Very difficult to find a centre. You've sort of got a blob of about 2 metres where it could be,
Right.
around the centre there.
And where is that on the ground?
The centre of that
Yeah.
is just down We can see that stone there.
But it's actually a whole area around that there.
But yeah, you want to be taking it at least a metre and a half around that to give you an idea. So potentially under the section here.
Can I borrow that? Because that's a real conundrum, that is. I need to go and think about that.
And while Mick's struggling to digest this unusual shape, Bridge has turned up yet more surprises.
Well, it looks like we've got a piece of burnt timber. And what's interesting about it, it looks as though it's been burnt somewhere else, and then it's been dumped into the backfill of this ditch.
How big is it?
Well, we can see this much here, but there is a lot of burning up the other end there as well, where everyone's digging. That's also associated with some burnt daub.
What's that telling you, Mick?
Well, it isn't quite what I'd expect with a barrow, although, you know, you do get funeral pyres for burning bodies and so on. But it's rather helping with what is a very odd sight, it seems to be now. I mean, I'm going off the idea of it being a barrow.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but well, look at the shape of it.
If that was your bike, you wouldn't get home in a hurry.
Well, no,
would
that's
you?
right. And, you know, we've hardly got any pottery from it at all, you know. I mean, we've got a few odd bits that might be bits of cremation urn, and we've hardly got any bone from it, either cremated or ordinary bone. So I'm beginning to wonder whether it's a barrow at all, or whether it isn't some other type of site.
But if it's another type of site, is it going to be of interest?
Well, yeah, because, I mean, there's masses of features in it. We've got the ditch round it, got lots of features inside, we've got what probable entrance over there, so there's a lot to go at to sort out. But I'm just wondering what on earth it is.
This site gets more and more peculiar. On day 1, we thought we got a Roman temple. Day 2, we thought we got a classic Bronze Age burial mound. Now, Mick thinks it's something entirely different. What? We'll find out tomorrow. Beginning of day 3, and not content with putting a huge trench in all the way over here and extending it all the way down there, not to mention 2 huge trenches on the other side of that hedge, Mick's gone trench crazy, and you're extending the whole thing over here. What's going on?
We've got some Geofiz anomalies here.
What do they look like?
They're just blobs on it, but given that is looking very interesting and exciting now, we've got to spend the whole day looking at it. We've got to look at this as well to go with it.
What do you reckon it is?
I've no idea. I just feel in me water that it's going to be very significant.
You're a professor, you ought to be able to tell us.
Yeah, but I think we're back in prehistory here, and that's you know, we need some specialists. I mean, Miles is our man for this, without any doubt.
We've left the first field behind. All our efforts are now in the second field, investigating the barrow and the Geofiz blobs. They might be an entrance, which would be unusual in a standard Bronze Age barrow. It's one of a number of puzzles that have got the archaeologists scratching their heads about this monument.
Okay, right, Matt, if we can get a nice sort of metre section through that charcoal, that would be absolutely brilliant. Okay.
Unlike most Bronze Age round barrows, our barrow isn't circular, as Henry revealed. And after his bombshell, we double-checked the middle area in case there was a burial there. But no, and no burials anywhere else either. And our puzzling monument seems to have had a palisade as well.
So we've got the ditch swinging around here.
Our army of diggers have got just one day of scraping and shoveling left to find out what this prehistoric thing is.
These enclosures and barrows have a big timber facade on the outer edge.
Encouragingly, there are plenty of finds. One that may be very significant has got Phil in raptures.
Look at that profile, where that curves down there. Classic scraper shape, that is. That ain't just a 5-minute job, that's beautiful workmanship. I mean, that's got to be late Neolithic, early Bronze Age, I'd have thought.
Really?
Amazingly, to an expert like Phil, a stone tool can be dating evidence. The trimming on this scraper suggests skilled craftsmanship from the Neolithic or Stone Age.
Perfect thing for holding in your hand.
These skills were largely lost in the Bronze Age when metal replaced stone tools. It may add yet another 1,000 years to our monument, and that would definitely account for the odd features.
Is it true that he wasn't that interested in archaeology until we came along?
That's right, absolutely true.
We can't keep him away now.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it?
What is it that interests you most?
The contrast in the colour of the ditch in the centre. I never knew any of this was under here. I've been over it so many times and not realised this stuff was underneath it.
That's proper archaeology talk, isn't it? He's interested in the subtle differences in the shades of the soil. Not the coins, then?
No, coins are boring. Seen one, seen more.
Among the odd features of this prehistoric barrow thing were the Geofiz blobs just outside the ring ditch.
So is it part of an entrance complex?
Definitely not, no. No, looking at it, it's starting to worry me whether it's actually some kind of quarry, because the sides of it are extremely irregular.
Right.
There's not an awful lot of material in it either.
I see, so they've used that to actually make the mound.
That would be a nice assumption to make, actually.
So one oddity explained, but there's another in the barrow itself. Bridge and Ian are investigating an intriguing area of the ring ditch, which has clearly been filled with burnt material.
The thing about this ridge that's amazing is the finds that are coming out. They're coming out left, right and centre, and it's Ian who's really finding them, and I'm just looking at him jealous as anything.
What have you got?
Well, he's just finding all these tools here.
Cool.
Look at them all. I mean, he's got this one here, wonderful thing.
It's a scraper. He used to scrape off hides and things like that.
There's this one here.
That's another scraping edge.
He's found this one here. There's all sorts of things. They've also found some pottery in here. Absolutely brilliant stuff. This one here. You could have a thumb decoration there or a lug that's fallen off.
What kind of period do you reckon this is?
Well, I'd go for Bronze Age, but very early Bronze Age. Maybe transitional.
I think you're probably about right, and I think one of a really good key indicator that sort of provoked discussion is from this piece of pottery here. It's a rim, and it's got whipcord decoration.
What do you mean by that?
Well, can you see here? You've got like a piece of string has been pressed into the wet clay before it was dried.
The string decoration would have been applied before this massive collared urn was fired, about 4,000 years ago.
Absolutely wonderful. It's just the most exciting trench I've worked on, I don't know for how long.
The field archaeologists are starting to say that they reckon this might not be just a plain old Bronze Age site, that it might be very early Bronze Age or on the cusp of Bronze Age and Neolithic, or even Neolithic. What do you reckon?
It's Neolithic, without a shadow of a doubt.
Why do you say that?
Well, based on the actual shape of the monument and the artefacts coming out of it, it is very clearly all late Neolithic.
Do we know much about these Neolithic people?
Well, we're really dealing with the first agriculturalists, the first farmers, the first builders of monuments in the Neolithic. Prior to the Neolithic, we just got sort of hunters and gatherers, not really having much of an impact, but the Neolithic farmers are the first people who start building things, big monuments in the landscape, cutting down trees, ploughing fields.
What sort of date?
Well, it dates from around about 4000 BC. So our monument's at the tail end of it's about 3000 BC.
Can we work out anything about them as people?
We can. Actually finding the skeletal evidence is often quite rare. We find bits of bodies, but we don't find complete individuals. And that might be what our monument is. It might be a place where bodies are left to decompose and then selected pieces are taken away for burial elsewhere.
Do you find many monuments like this around here?
Not around here, no. So this is actually quite rare. It fills in a nice gap in our Neolithic map.
We appear to have lurched more than 3,000 years back in time since we arrived at the site. Poor old Victor has been struggling to keep up with this archaeological mystery tour. It's not that long since he rubbed out the Romans.
Right,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Hello, Victor. Well, that's a lovely drawing of a Bronze Age round mound. I've got a bit of bad news, though, I'm afraid.
No.
Material that's coming up now looks Neolithic. So I think
Oh.
we've added about 1,000 years onto the date of the mound.
Redrawing is in order then?
Yes, redesign, I'm afraid.
And as far as the activity is concerned, what would they be?
Well, that is the $6 million question, really. What is going on inside? Our evidence for a number of these sites is you get bits of human remains in the ditch.
Right.
And one suggestion is this is an exposure burial site where bodies decompose. Probably not the sort of the nicest of pictures to do, but possibly bodies decomposing in the centre and bits rolling off into the ditches.
Wow.
Stuart's come up with yet another piece of evidence that supports Miles's theory that this may be a Neolithic site. It's all to do with the visibility of the site from the surrounding countryside.
This landscape has just thrown some real surprises in here. This model here shows, the green shows the high ground, and the other colours show the low ground, where the monument can't be seen. It's there.
So essentially, you can see it when you're some way away, but when you're near, it's invisible.
That's a very Neolithic thing to do, to get seclusion. You're not wanting to show off to the landscape, you're actually wanting sort of privacy around it, and our site has got that quality. If you look where the rivers are, here, put the rivers on this 3D view of the site there.
It's like in the middle of the circle of all those rivers, isn't it?
It is, and it's actually sitting right in that triangle of them. Again, typical Neolithic thing, putting monuments close to watersheds and sources of rivers. Different in the Bronze Age, because the barrows and burial in the Bronze Age is up on the high ridges. They want these things to be seen. And the only reason you get in Bronze Age activity on our site is because they're continuing the older traditions. It's just perpetuation, as it were.
What about when you get to the Roman?
Ah, different story.
That is a Roman road, isn't it?
You're bang on there, yeah. We've got Roman settlements here, and we've got them up here.
Yeah.
Now, the line of least resistance between them, crossing these watersheds, you see, if you went to the left, you've got all these tributaries to get across. If you went to the right, you have the same problem. But look in between, you can just go straight down that ridge. So that means there's a pattern of movement develops very close to our site. And I think that's why you're getting the coins put there, because people are just passing close by. So it's a landscape full of some real surprises, actually. So it's far more complicated than I ever expected when I came here.
Bridge and Ian's area of burnt material has produced one final surprise which may help to nail down the story of our mysterious prehistoric monument.
Ian, look at this. I think I might have another piece of pottery, but I'm not sure actually what it is. It's very dirty.
Oh no, I don't think it's pot, it's daub. Look, that's where the hazel rug went through.
Of course it is.
It's Watland daub.
That's absolutely brilliant, because yesterday we had some burnt daub up that end there.
There you go. It's the
That's
house.
very nice.
We've got the house.
Wattle and daub was made by weaving hazel rods together and then daubing them with a mix of mud, straw and dung. Our daub may have been part of the palisade around the monument. Phil's post holes suggested a circle of timbers, and in between there may have been wattled hurdle, making it continuous. And this structure would be more typically Neolithic than Bronze Age. Funny that they didn't seem to be able to do circles, though. Phil himself has found a quiet spot and is now in his own personal heaven.
What's happened to you then? You've been sent into exile?
Not at all. I've just been playing. I've just been getting so much hassle from everybody up on site about stone tools. I keep talking about these stone tools, I keep eulogising about them, and they keep wanting to ask me all about them. So I'll tell you what I've done. I've pinched a couple of the best ones,
yeah.
that no scraper, and while nobody's looking, I'm going to make a couple. There you go. That wood.
Yes, it's not far off, is it?
That would have been the right blank, you see.
Yeah. So what you're actually using here, though, isn't classic flint, is it? It's chert.
Well, that's right. It's the flint equivalent out of the green sand.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I have devil's own job talking to all the locals around here because they keep on talking about this as flint.
Yeah.
And to me, this light is, as you say, it's chert, but it works just as well. Yes, better. Look at that.
Yeah.
Lovely straight edge.
Yeah.
I mean, that is razor sharp.
Yeah.
Absolutely razor sharp.
The chert tools that have inspired Phil are the best evidence that our monument's Neolithic, about 5,000 years old. But the pottery is all Bronze Age and could be over 1,000 years later. Our experts have got together to see if they can crack this puzzle.
We were so excited about this pottery that we asked you to drop everything and come up here from Salisbury to see us. What is it?
Well, this is a very interesting little collection of early Bronze Age pottery. There seem to be several different vessels represented here, of which this is probably the best example. This is a rim from an early Bronze Age collared urn.
Do we know what that would have been likely to have been used for?
These vessels are quite often associated with funerary remains. They're used as burial urns, but they can also be used in a domestic context.
Give us a date. What do you reckon?
I'd say somewhere between 2000 and 1500 BC.
Miles, what about the tools?
Well, there's a nice sort of range of scrapers and knives and notch flakes coming up, so quite a dense collection of tools.
Now, earlier today, you said to me, I'm sure this is Neolithic, and yet you're now saying that it's Bronze Age. Do we have a problem here?
Well, certainly with the flint work, they're sort of, I would say, late Neolithic and or early Bronze Age.
Yeah, so there could be a chronological overlap between the two.
What I don't understand is, we've got this huge egg which is representing our site, right? And we've got our hedge here.
all these finds came from a trench just here on the ditch. These ones came from here, but nowhere round the rest of the ditch have we found anything at all. What do you think is going on?
Well, I think it's important to bear in mind that all this material is coming from a very sort of organic, rich, charcoal-rich layer in the upper levels of the ditch. So there's some kind of deposit going on. This is not rubbish material. This is some kind of deliberate deposit of flint tools, sorry, chert tools and pottery.
Why are people burying their tools and their pots?
People are coming up here in the very late Neolithic and early Bronze Age, depositing these tools, this pottery, in the upper levels of the ditch, in much the same way, I suppose, that 3,000 years later, the Romans are coming up and doing the same thing with their coins.
This site has produced one of the biggest range of finds we've ever seen on Time Team. From 5,000-year-old Neolithic chert tools to 500-year-old medieval coins, there's something from every period. And together they've unlocked the secrets of this site. We came here looking for a Roman temple and instead found what we thought was a classic Bronze Age barrow. But it's now clear that our thing began its life in the Neolithic about 5,000 years ago, as an enclosure ringed by a ditch and quite possibly by a palisade which was later burnt. The enclosure may have been used to display dead bodies. Tools and pottery were also deposited in two sections of the ditch. In the Bronze Age, a mound was thrown up using material dug from quarry pits just outside the ring ditch. The mound was probably still visible in the Roman period, and local people passing by were moved to bury their coins next to it, which is where we came in. Do you remember on day one, about midday, when we weren't filming and you grabbed my arm and you said, "Oh, I hope we haven't got you here on a wild goose chase"?
That's right, we were concerned it was just a pot of coins and there was nothing else here.
Well, it was far more than that, wasn't it?
That's right.
What does the guy who's not interested in archaeology think of it?
Well, there's something in it, isn't it? Gets you after a while.
You glad we came?
Yeah, really glad. Had fun.
You know, I can't remember a Time Team that's been more of a roller coaster ride. Can you, Mick? And it all ended up with this fantastic late Neolithic burial mound, the ditch of which is being lovingly created by the whole team. And the finding of this was a fantastic piece of luck. This was dug 5,000 years ago, and it would probably have remained a secret till the end of time. Certainly we would never have come here if it hadn't been for a handful of finds deposited by a group of people worshipping a completely different set of gods 2,000 years ago.